So today I have something a little bit different for you. Usually, as you know, I like to show you a process video on Fridays, but this week I have a show and tell for you. And there are a couple of reasons for that. First of all, my week got crazy busy and doing this is a bit faster, a little simpler. Secondly, and most importantly though, I want to share some of my pottery work with you, which I wanted to do for a long time, and I think today is the day. Now, when I was a teenager and a young adult, I dabbled in pottery. I absolutely loved it. But then I decided to leave Germany. I traveled, I got married, I had kids, you know the story. Life got too busy. But a bit over a year ago, I discovered a pottery studio not far from here, and I took 2 courses back to back. And I would have taken more if COVID wouldn't have come in the way, and they're completely closed down. But I really hope that when the pandemic is over, I can get back to it, because I absolutely love it. I love the medium of clay, experimenting with glazes, and I definitely want to learn more. So I am an absolute beginner here, but I want to show you some of my pieces. Only the ones that came out okay, because yeah, there were some that broke drying, others broke in the kiln, others the glaze ran and glued everything together. And having those kind of accidents, it's pretty common when you first get started, because pottery is an art. It's not as simple as it looks. Anyway, some pieces just ended up in the trash. Others, I have a good friend who has a lovely garden and she uses it in there for garden decorations, and they look great because, well, nobody looks too close, right? So anyway, today you will see the pieces which I think came out okay. So when I started my first course, I had a teacher that was an amazing sculptor. He does human-like, detailed sculptures, animals with fur, all those incredible pieces of art. And so he encouraged everybody to work on the human face and to make a bust. And I was absolutely intimidated by it, because faces are not my thing, even drawing or painting them. So I thought I start with something more simple. Otherwise I end up with a big lump of clay, heavy, ugly, and I don't know what to do with it when I'm all done. So I thought I'd opt for something a bit smaller, a bit simpler. So I made this little fawn face. And that started with just a lump of paper, so it wouldn't get too heavy. So the paper was here to start with. And then I just made a little face. And the nice thing is that when you do a fawn or a fantasy creature, your dimension and proportions don't have to be perfect. So he has a very big nose, a funny chin, funny ears, but here he is. Now, my teacher at the time did not use glazes on his pieces because, as I said, they're very detailed and glazes often cover that up. So he encouraged all of us to paint our pieces, as that's what he does. So I painted this just the way you would do mixed media items. I used black gesso on his face and the horns and the ears, a white gesso on the hair. Then this got a coat of copper, and this got a coat of metallic green. So here he is. Pretty cool. So next, I thought let's do again a bit more simple. So I wanted to do a bowl, but I opted for a more square shape, and I used just a plastic container from the kitchen to help me shape it right. Now all the items I show you here are hand built. They're not thrown on the wheel. But then I also wanted to give it some dimensional details. So as you can see here, it's more or less square. It has a little foot, and then it has this tree here. It has the branches and the leaves. And I made those leaves individually, and then they were put together. There's a smaller section here, a larger section over here, and then it also goes towards the inside. So I'm quite happy with the way this came out, and again I painted it. Now for this I painted this thing I think about 3 times until I came out with the color I liked. So it's black on the inside, gray on the top, black on the foot, green metallic here, and again the copper. And now it seemed to me like it had a bit of an Asian flair, so to accentuate that I added these white lines and dots. It also filled out this empty space here, and there are also a couple of them here on the inside. So here is my tree bowl. And I think that was all I did in the first course. Second course, I had a different teacher, and he was into glazing. So I started with something simple, and that's this mug here. Again, it started with a slab of clay, and I pressed a doily into it to get this kind of design and detail. As you can see, you can recognize it as a doily. And most of it came out pretty good. I made a good handle, nice size, comfortable, good size of the mug. There's a little bump in there where I attached the handle and pushed the clay in too much, but it has nice glaze on the inside, a bit of teal, beige, then this red which settled in all the grooves. So I was very happy with it, except the glaze ran and it got stuck to the kiln, which is a very common problem. Even though I cleaned the bottom, it wasn't enough. And then the only thing you can do to get it out of the kiln is to break it off. So it has all these marks. So it's no good for the kitchen, but I keep it in my art room and keep my brushes in it. And I still like it, and I definitely want to try mugs again sometime in the future. So the next thing during that course, I saw one of the potter use this really nice technique where you take a slab of clay, you roll it very gently so you can still unroll it again, and that gives it all this distressed line. And I used those pieces to make this little bowl. It started with just the shape of a little circular bowl, very simple and plain, and then I added pieces from that distressed clay, and I absolutely love it. I love the way it looks. I love the details, the texture. It has a bit of a tree bark look to it. I like the way that some go up and some lay down, and it just worked. I just had the right pieces to make this work. And then the inside is glazed, and the inside is always easier to glaze because you can put a lot of glaze and it can't run anywhere. So it's a very safe place, and it came out really nice, very smooth. I used two different colors of, it's kind of a gray blue. So I'm very happy with this. And then here on the outside, I also discovered that aside from heavy glazes or painting, you can also just stain your clay. So this is just a stain. It just gives it a bit of color and brings out the details you can see here on the bottom. But it doesn't stick because it's not a really heavy coat. It's basically just a color. So here is my little bowl, which I really love. Now I had more of this distressed stuff when I rolled out the clay, and so I wanted something that I can hang up because, you know, with all these doodads, my shelf space would soon be filled up. So I wanted to go for something that can hang. So I started with a big slab here and some long pieces, as you can see, and this is pretty heavy. And then I used more of the distressed pieces at the very end. Underneath them I rolled out the clay very thin and ripped the edges, so again a bit of an organic look. Now the main part here I decorated by just adding some lines. Again, it looks a little bit like tree bark. And then this has again the stain. Now this has a glaze, but it's a very metallic glaze that does this oxidation. It's just really cool. If you can see, it has this kind of metal burned metallic look. I absolutely love it. And then in the middle it's a normal glaze, but here, yeah, I had gone for something much brighter. The glaze, the sample pieces looked much more orange to me, but it didn't quite do what I wanted it to do, and that's again very common when you first start with this kind of stuff, but I'm okay with it. So here it is. Here is my first wall hanging, and then I did a second one, oops, which is really my favorite, and I'll put it here for you. Can you see it? Yep. So this was of course made in 3 sections, and then when I came home and it was all done, I attached it with these leather bands here, so it would be hanging this way. I again distressed the background clay a bit. And then I added these round shapes of clay. I also made some indentation into the clay. It goes all the way down here. And then on the bottom I shaped these kind of cone-like structures. I just wanted it to look a bit like abstract flowers. It didn't have to be completely realistic. So let me give you a close-up here. Now again, I used the stain on the background, but glazes on all this. The glaze also went into some of the indentation. On the background, I used a dark green stain to do a bit of splattering, just like you would do in mixed media. So here is the first piece. Here's the second piece. And of course, I had put the holes in before all this went into the kiln, because I knew I was going to attach it this way. And here is the third one. And the flowers came out very cool. 3 different glazes on here. Now even on this piece I had shot for something a little brighter, but to do that right still eludes me. Maybe next time. But I'm very happy with this. I love it. It hangs on my wall in my living room. So these were all the pieces I had for today. I hope you enjoyed this little show and tell. I know it's not a process video, but I think show and tells can also be satisfying and fun, and I hope you had fun today. Anyway, I thank you so very much for coming. I absolutely appreciate it. I will see you soon again. Stay safe. I'll be back next Friday. Bye bye for now.